Hey vinyl community, it's Mazzy here, and it's a continuation of the fall season of contest times. This is an entry for Miss Lady Soul Eve's 200 subscriber Rock My Soul contest. I was thinking of that Rock My Soul, that Elvin Bishop song. I'm not including that, but that is not the name of the album, I think, on Epic Records. Cool contest. She shows some great soulful stuff, rock and roll stuff, some funk, some just all over the place in a good way. Good taste in music, and it's really enjoyable watching her presentation. Just lovely. I enjoy it, and I'm sure so do you if you're watching this. If you don't know her channel, there'll be a link down here right below. So you click down there, you open the little thing up, and that's where all the info is. That's where all the good stuff. That's where all the, at least for me, I always put my corrections there since I don't do captions. Anyway, I digress. So some questions I'll just go through as we take them. First, 3 favorite rock albums. I just picked 3 that I'm in the mood for right now. They're not my all-time favorite albums, and I decided, since I've been showing a lot of a similar type of stuff from the 60s, 70s, I decided to go back to the 50s, just because I picked 3 artists, and there's a couple albums per artist. I'll do really quickly, because these 3 artists influenced everything I love, and to me have influenced the best of all rock and roll in general, and not in any particular order. Buddy Holly and the Crickets. I mean, come on. Oh Boy, Rock Me Baby, That'll Be the Day, Peggy Sue, Ready Teddy, Rave On, Words of Love, You're So Square. You know, if it wasn't for Buddy Holly, I mean, the Lennon and McCartney, we wouldn't have the sound they have. They covered, in fact, I probably started hearing Buddy Holly because of the Beatles, their cover of Words of Love, even though I had heard stuff before that. I was a little young to obviously grow up with this stuff, but it's a major, major influence in my life. Buddy Holly with the Crickets, and then under his name solo. Great records, the Chirpin' Crickets, and great rock and roll record. Not the traditional rock that my generation beyond gets into in the 60s, 70s, but I think the essence of rock and roll. The 2 other artists, too, that are vastly important to me and to my interest. The next one is, you know, we wouldn't have the Rolling Stones and even the Beatles and a lot of other groups if it wasn't for Chuck Berry. Sure, I could say Elvis, but I'm not showing Elvis. Elvis was a great interpreter. He wasn't really a songwriter, but talk about creating a sound, creating a mood. You wouldn't have the Beach Boys early records without Chuck Berry. 28 Greatest Hits, a nice comp, but if you can ever find a good quality of this, this is probably one of the best sounding records, except they're all chewed up, and I get through the the surface noise and scratches of this record, but this is the true mono stuff. Chuck Berry's Greatest Hits, this one on Chess Records. So find pristine copies of this is really hard to do, but I would say Chuck Berry's Greatest Hits, 6 songs, that's all you need. Roll Over Beethoven, School Days, Rock and Roll Music, Too Much Monkey Business, Johnny Be Good, Maybelle, Memphis, Sweet Little 16, Brown Eyed Handsome Man. This is it. This is da bomb, as they say. And then lastly, in terms of the rock artists that are really important, again, got me into the bands that I got into were influenced by this guy, Little Richard. And Lucille, Girl Can't Help It, from the movie Girl Can't Help It, Good Golly Miss Molly. Little Richard. Woo! Paul McCartney got his that singing style from Little Richard, definitely. So Little Richard. Those are the 3 artists, 3 rock and roll of my favorite. Again, I just decided for this video to start with the 50s, where it all began. Okay, next, 2 or more R&B soul funk records. Again, I'm cheating. I'm showing 2 box sets. I'm going for CDs only because some of the greatest singles of the 60s and early 70s were soul and R&B stuff. These are from the 70s, Rhyno collection, from Marvin Gaye to the Spinners to the Stylistics, the Sly and the Family Stone. Great funk stuff, Bill Withers. This is a really great overview. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 CDs. And, you know, I could go on and on about this music. I grew up with this music too. Grazing in the Grass, Friends of Distinction, Rainy Day Night in Georgia, Brooke Benton, Everyone's a Star, Sly Stone, The Delphonics, The Moments, Frida Payne, Lost Generation, Jackie Moore, The Fuzz. I mean, you got your big hits, you got your secondary hits, Isaac Hayes, The Shy Lights, Chairman of the Board, Frida Payne, Friends of Distinction, Wilson Pickett, and so on. I mean, I'm not going to go through all these, but this is a great Rhyno box when they were doing these silly design box sets of faux 8-tracks on the front, but stuff from the 70s. Kool and the Gang, Al Green, Bobby Womack, Peaches and Herbs, James Brown, Rufus. Nice book overviewing it. War's on here as well. So great soulful, funky stuff. And then Beg, Scream, and Shout, the big box of 60s soul. This is a killer collection. Again, in these faux 45 covers, but they're CDs. And it's everything from James Brown to Jerry Butler to Irma Franklin, Wilson Pickett, Carla Thomas, Joe Simon, Mary Wells, Ike and Tina Turner, Doris Troy, Booker T and the MGs, Ike Ketz, Four Tops, Aretha Franklin, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Fontella Bass, Rescue Me, right? Clarence Carter, Lou Rawls. God, I want to play this right now. Esther Phillips, Gene Chandler, The Dynamics, Otis Redding. I mean, again, I go on and on. Just these two things covering the 60s and 70s. And we're not even talking Motown. You know, I could pull out Motown stuff too, and that's such great. I mean, I look at it more, the soul from the 60s, especially the 60s, was more single-based, even though that you had albums by the Supremes and albums by the Temps and everything. They were singles artists. The albums were almost like that, plus some filler. Not to take away from it, that was kind of a common thing for a while. But into the 70s, and you get Stevie Wonder, Isaac Hayes, doing these amazing, fully realized albums. Marvin Gaye, Billy Paul. You get these great albums, like in rock and roll too. You know, all of a sudden the Pink Floyds of the world, and you know, starting with the Beatles, they were about albums and more realized musical formats rather than, you know, a few singles. That's the oldest story. You don't need me to tell you that. Okay, moving on. Album everyone should own that you don't see a lot in the VC. I'm surprised how little I see Beck. And when we see Beck, you have the moody stuff, or you see, you know, like, God, see, I blank out when I'm in front of you. I get so embarrassed. Sea Change and Morning Phases, the two mellow albums, which are beautiful records on their own. And of course, again, I gotta look again. Beck, Odelay, you know, the real kind of trip hop fusing stuff of rock and roll and hip hop, and beautiful record. But I think the record that I put on more than any other record is Beck Mutations. I think most of you who like Beck have this record. If you don't, you need it. This is his one that is so 60s, 70s. It's got a feel of Bowie, early or Ziggy Stardust Bowie, of Ray Davis of the Kinks, kind of that 60s psychedelic pop folky sound. Really a beautiful recording and a great record. But Beck Mutations, I would say, would be my call for a record that everyone in the VC should own. I'm going to say pick one Beck album. This is the one. This fuses the mellower stuff with the hip-hoppy kind of rock and roll country fusion, folky, psych folk, whatever he does. I love Beck. I think he's one of the most interesting artists of the last quarter century from my point of view. He's one of my favorites. Okay, next we go to a live album. I show this over and over and over again, but I'm going to be consistent. My favorite live album, maybe it's not always number one, but it's in the top 3 or 4, is Jefferson Airplane, Bless His Poor Little Head from Fillmore, 1968. Recording, great sound. Jack Cassidy's bass playing is stunning. I'd say the only weak link is Bear Melt, the last 11-minute piece, kind of falls apart there, but everything else is perfect. They're just a jamming band, and they're at the height of their live performance period. That's Jack Cassidy right there after a few bottles, the party's over. But Jefferson Airplane, RCA Records, 1968, live. And then a hated song, a song you hated, and now you love. Well, I've loved it for a long time, but I hated it in the beginning when I first heard the record. And then I fell in love with this artist. Okie from Muskogee. You know, when this came out, it seemed, and it wasn't a parody or a novelty. In a way, it was novelty, but it was really kind of hitting off on the left-wing culture, left coast country, the San Francisco hippie scene. I mean, I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee, and they, put down, we don't wear our hair down, we don't wear sandals like they do in Berkeley or whatever, like the hippies down in San Francisco do. I was from San Francisco. I hated Merle Haggard putting down the left coast, putting down the peace lovers, But this album is great. I mean, Okie Muskogee recorded live in Muskogee, Oklahoma, of course. And look what he became later. Look, he got so liberal, so left-wing, got kind of, in bed with, not literally, but with Waylon and Willie and, the alt, smoking marijuana and growing his hair long, growing his beard. But this has Mama Tried, live record, Silver Wings, Swinging Doors, Lonesome Fugitive. So some of his greatest songs live. This could have been a good live album, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite live album, but it's just a great record. But Okie from Muskogee, country song, great song, especially now looking back on it. It's just a great thing. And then there's a group, the Youngbloods. Remember Youngbloods, who did Get Together? Love is but a song we sing. Come on, people now, Smile on Your Brother, Jesse Colin Young, and Banana and the Boys and all that. They did a kind of a answer song around 1970 called Hippie from Olema. And Olema is an area over the Golden Gate Bridge on the west side of Marin by Point Reyes. And it's a little tiny, you blink and you pass through the town. But I think Jesse Colin Young lived up there, and the song the Youngbloods did was Hippie from Olema, their answer. We don't, something our friends, unless they're haggard, I can't remember. Anyway, Miss Lady Soul, Eve, congratulations. Keep it coming. We love your channel. I love your channel, not we the collective. But good luck on 200 subscribers, and thanks for watching. And Mazzy loves you. Bye.